to Off Limits. Liberal, irreverent, and really, really gay.
Welcome to Gay Mass, everybody. It is Monday morning, right after Sunday night here in Dallas, Texas. Thanks for joining me here on the Off Limits show tonight on Gay Mass. And if you are listening to Gay Mass for the first time, this is a show all about gay issues, gay topics, gay news, gay music, gay host, gay everything. So if you don't like gay people, you're in the wrong place. And if you do like gay people, if you're one of us, whichever the case may be, you're in the right place because we are all family. So thanks for joining me here on the show tonight. I'm going to talk about several things tonight on the show. We're going to talk about Wentworth Miller and what he revealed recently at an HRC black tie dinner event. We're going to talk about Boy George's new song, one of the first new songs he's had in a very long time. A very good song. I actually like it. We're going to play the song as well for you. Talk about the Pink Mafia and what that is exactly, and what it's sometimes criticized to be by bigots and those who are prejudiced. And an anti-gay pastor has much to say about gay marriage. We're going to play a clip from him. Also, a student has been bullied at a Charleston, South Carolina high school by his teacher, and the teacher actually went as far as to actually bully bully the student, but also rally the entire class to help him bully this student and call him names. So I'm going to play that clip real quick, 2 minutes long, so you can hear the story. We'll talk about it. Be right back.
And tonight we begin with a lawsuit accusing a West Ashley teacher of bullying a student he thought was gay. Good evening, everybody. I'm Victoria Hansen. Dean will join us in just a moment, but first, that student's mother claims the bullying made her son attempt suicide. ABC News 4's Ava Wilhite joins us in the studio with all the details. Ava?
Victoria, I talked with the attorney of the former student who says his client, who's only being identified as John Doe because he is still a minor and is still in treatment. The lawsuit claims that his math teacher not only called the student gay, but encouraged his classmates to call him names as well. An 8-page civil suit claims an unnamed West Ashley high school student, now 16, was bullied in front of the class by his math teacher who called him gay. The math teacher is listed in the suit multiple times by name but is not a defendant. John Doe claims the bullying began last spring and continued for an extended period of time. He says his teacher told the class he was in a gay relationship with another male student in the classroom and that they were boyfriend and girlfriend. The lawsuit also alleges the teacher, quote, berated, belittled, teased, and humiliated John Doe by using names ranging from gay boy to Mrs. Peter in front of the class. Another item in the lawsuit says the teacher encouraged other students to call John Doe names during class. The lawsuit claims negligence on behalf of the Charleston County School District for a number of reasons, including it failed to prevent, discover, or stop the teacher's actions. The attorney for John Doe says the school district has 30 days to respond to that suit that was filed on August 30th. He would not comment on the case because of the sensitive nature. The boy is being homeschooled and is still in therapy. The teacher listed in the lawsuit is still employed at the high school, and no criminal charges have been filed against him. Charleston police say they do not have the teacher in their system. We've reached out to the Charleston County School District. They declined to comment on the case. Back to you.
So we have this teacher who decides that he's going to pick on this student, this male student who's about 15 years old or so, and decides to bully him in class in front of his peers because he doesn't like gay people and because this student is not ashamed of who he is or what he is and makes no apologies for it, and he shouldn't. However, not only does the teacher bully the student and make fun of him in front of his classmates, but he also rallies his peers to help him make fun of this student and calls him names, belittles him, and tries to make him feel, just like nothing. Excuse me. And so this instructor, this teacher, or whatever, in my opinion, should be fired. Obviously, now. Before I get into this topic, I want to say that it's unlikely this teacher will be fired. It's very difficult to fire teachers at all because of unions, etc. And I believe in unions, but there's many instances of these types of things happening in the school systems across the country, and this is just one of many, many, many that have happened. And it's very unlikely that this teacher will be even reprimanded, actually. Depending upon how evolved the administration is. And in South Carolina, I shudder to think that they're probably not the most evolved people. And, that is a stereotype, but it is, they are in the South, they are in pretty deep South, and it's very unlikely they're going to be sensitive to this kid's needs. So anyway, but this brought up something in me that reminded me of something that happened to me when I was in middle school. In high school, I had no problems with bullying or anything because I was, people were afraid of me or something. I was openly gay, and my best friend was openly gay, but everybody picked on him, but no one picked on me. Don't know why. I don't know if it's because I was imposing physically or something, or just because I was very self-assured and didn't care what people thought about me at all in terms of that. So, however, in middle school, something similar to what happened to this kid happened to me. Not the same thing by any means, but similar to some degree, because I had a teacher, Mrs. Clark. Her name was Donna Clark. She got remarried. She got married, and her name was Donna Taylor later on in my time there. Just want to say her name out loud so everybody knows. Her name is Donna Clark. She lives in Texas still, by the way. Anyway, Donna Taylor, excuse me. So she was a teacher that I had for English, and she actually was someone I liked. I mean, I thought she was nice, and she was polite or nice to me or whatever. And she was probably young, probably her late 20s at the time. And so we kind of related to her a little better than we did the other teachers we had in middle school, because she wasn't old, like I am now, or like, in her 30s or 40s or 50s, like some of them were. So we liked her. And so I was always a good student. I was very nice, very polite, very well behaved. I never caused trouble at all. I was always a very good student, and she and I got along fine. Well, anyway, and I got good grades in her class. One day, she had asked the class to write something down in English class, and she said to all of us, she said, "I want you to write something that you wouldn't tell anybody. And just a deep secret, but don't worry, I'm not going to show it to anybody. It's just for you to have. All you have to do to get an A is just write it down, turn it in, I'll mark it, I won't even read it, and then I'll give it back to you." And so, being the stupid 12-year-old I was, or I should say stupid, I should say ignorant and naive 12-year-old that I was, I actually took a deep, dark secret that I had and put it into the composition book that we had. And my deep, dark secret was that I had a huge crush on the band director, Mr. Tony. And I had one for a very long time. And so I wrote in this composition book, I wrote how I liked him a lot. I thought about him a lot. And he was like somebody I really could look up to. And I didn't love him like in a Valentine's Day way, but I really liked him, and blah, blah, blah. And so, of course, I did like him in that way, but I didn't admit it to myself at the time. So I wrote all this stuff in there, and turned it in, and that was it. It was the weekend. Came back Monday, and Monday she actually returned all of our composition books, and she was acting very, very differently toward me. It was obvious. There was a huge shift in her personality and how she was treating me. And I was a very sensitive child, and what I mean by that is I could easily pick up on people's, things like that, shifts in personality, or sensitive in that fashion, like sensitive, like I could pick up on things, right? I was also sensitive the other way as well, but so I could pick up on things like that, and I picked up on hers definitely. It was very obvious to me that she was treating me differently, acting differently towards me, and she gave me an F for the assignment, and I was like, what the fuck? She told all of us we just had to write it and we get an A. And I wrote the whole thing. And I was very good at English. I was a very good writer. And I'd always gotten A's in her class. And all of a sudden I got an F, right? So I knew instantly that the reason that she was doing this was she didn't like the fact that I was gay, or didn't like the fact that I had admitted this or whatever. And I was only 12 years old or so. And I hadn't even admitted it to myself really yet. It was before, I had come out when I was 14. And so I knew that what I had written was perfectly fine. It was grammatically correct, and it was a good story. I told it well, whatever, about Mr. Tony, what I thought about him, whatever. So I knew I didn't deserve an F. And so I went to her and I said, after the class was let out, I said, why did you give me an F? And she said, because that story is just not appropriate. I said, well, you said to say something that's deep, dark secret about ourselves, and so I did. And you said we get an A. All we had to do was write it. And she said, well, that's just not an appropriate story. And I said, well, I don't deserve an F, and so I'm going to take this to the principal, and blah, blah, blah. And so I started threatening her with that. And she said, she kind of like relented eventually, ultimately, and she turned it to an A. And so from an F to an A. So obviously she was retaliating against somebody she didn't like for being gay, right? Well, okay, so that was the first thing that happened. And then after that, over the next few weeks, in her classroom, like one time I was using a pen or a pencil instead of a pen to write my answers on a thing in class. And she looked back and she said, why aren't you using a pen? You should be using a pen. She jerked it out of my hand and she said, you can't use this in this class. And she started just being a bitch to me, right? Complete cunt, just for no reason. And I was just like going about my business, right? And so I just went on and kind of ignored it. Well, that following week, I was in the hallway and I was walking to my lockers, and my locker was on the bottom row, and we had two rows of lockers, like the half height lockers, not the full length ones, but the half height ones. So mine was on the bottom, and I was in middle school. I was like 7th grade, right? And so I was opening my locker. I was on my knees opening my locker, and then Jamie, what's his name? I can't remember his last name. Jamie something, Shield maybe? I can't remember his last name. But anyway, came up to me and stuck my face. He and his 3 other boys stuck my face in his crotch and said, "You like that, don't you? You like that, you faggot," and stuff like that. And I just like pulled my head away. I kept pulling my head away from him. And I looked out of the corner of my eye, and this is between classes, right? This is between classes. I looked out of the corner of my eye, and there was Mrs. Clark Taylor, whatever, standing there next to her door like she always does, and her door is directly across from my locker, doing nothing, just staring and looking at it, the whole thing happening, not doing anything. And they were just completely just like, essentially, bullying me, doing nothing about it. Didn't say a word to them, didn't do anything, didn't help me to stop that, whatever. Went on for a minute or two. Finally, I was able to pull my face away and stand up, and then they walked away, and they went off yelling things at me or whatever. And so I was humiliated, of course, and I looked at her, and I wasn't crying or like to the point I was going to cry. It didn't make me feel that way, but I remember I felt betrayed and embarrassed, of course, but betrayed that a teacher would do that, would allow that to happen. And because I'd always trusted teachers until that moment. I trusted them until that moment when I was 12 years old. And I knew that she was just a human being with a bad personality, and she couldn't be trusted, and that meant other people couldn't be trusted. Other instructors couldn't be trusted. So that was sort of the beginning of my hating authority and not trusting authority. And so one more thing that happened